Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Luke Hankins. I am the founder and editor of Orison Books. We are a nonprofit literary press that has a unique um, focus on publishing exceptional literary work that engages the life of the spirit in some way. We interpret that very broadly and openly. We are interested in all sorts of traditions and perspectives and voices. And the wider the diversity, the better, in our opinion. Um, and one of our ongoing projects is this annual anthology called Best Spiritual Literature, which we're here to celebrate the 10th volume of tonight with a number of contributors. I'm so happy they're able to join us and share their beautiful work this evening. Best Spiritual Literature is an anthology that reprints the finest spiritually engaged poetry, fiction, and nonfiction that appeared in periodicals during the preceding year. It also includes new, previously unpublished work by the winners of the Best Spiritual Literature Awards, two of whom are with us tonight, I'm happy to say. I'm going to put a few links in the chat. If you haven't ordered Best Spiritual Literature yet, this year's volume, there's a link there where you can order or subscribe. If you have ordered it and haven't received it yet, fear not. We had some delays, but it is now on the way. I promise you, should be arriving very shortly to anyone who's ordered it and to all the contributors. I also wanted to mention that we have an annual book prize as well. We publish a poetry collection and a work of fiction each year that wins our Orison prizes in poetry and fiction. Our judges this time around are Layla Shetty in poetry and Margot Lipsey in fiction. And the Orison prizes are open now through April 1 for submissions. So you can find guidelines at that link. And finally, we are an independently run nonprofit press, and we very much depend on the support of donors, large and small. So if you're interested in finding out more about our mission, please see our website. Please feel free to email me, and please consider becoming a donor. All right. Well, I'm so grateful to have everyone here with us this evening, and we're going to hear from contributors to Best Spiritual Literature Volume 10, including authors of fiction, poetry, and nonfiction. First, this evening will be Elle Danzis reading from their essay, The Heretic's Bestiary, which was published as a mini chapbook by Bull City Press, their Inch series. Welcome to Elle Danzis.
Thank you so much, Luke, and also to Suzanne, who I see in the audience, and to Nathan, who are the other editors at Orison who made this anthology possible. My name is Liam, and I'm delighted to be here, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share my work and to hear everyone else's pieces. So as Luke mentioned, I'll be reading a few passages from my essay in parts, The Heretic's Bestiary, which came out from Bull City Press out of Durham, North Carolina. And a little bit of background. At the time I wrote this, I had been separately wrestling with my gender identity and my spirituality for about a year. And so during that time, I kept noticing what felt like signs in my life, but especially in the natural world. And I don't consider myself a superstitious person, but I also couldn't stop thinking about these. So this essay, more than anything, is a collection of those moments and reflections compiled into what turned out to kind of resemble a medieval bestiary of sorts. So I'm just going to read a few passages from this essay. 1. Signs of spring. For 2 nights, I've dreamt of being called by my name. It isn't the name on anything important, birth certificate, driver's license, marriage certificate, but it's the name that matters, the one I've carried like a prayer in my heart. The other name, the one I've worn outwardly in the world, shrunk on me years ago. It clings to me as I've resisted growing into a new one, worried that it too will feel unnatural. Snakes shed their skin for survival and growth 4 to 12 times a year. I've only ever seen the ghosts of the process, the translucent trace paper copies. Among kingdom animalia, snakes aren't alone. Butterflies burst from chrysalises, crabs shed their shells, birds forsake old feathers. Even trees flower and die each year. In grade school, my friends and I hung cicada exoskeletons on our shirt, like brooches. Are we really so advanced that we've evolved past the need for seasonal growth? Or have we simply grown a primal fear of the painful process of becoming? 3. Heavenly bodies. On a bright Sunday morning in October, I received what I could only interpret at the time as a message straight from the divine. It came as I was driving alone on a 2-lane Virginia road, past yards and businesses promoted gun sales and Trump 2024, past a church with a sign proclaiming eternity is a long time to be wrong, past a farm field where vultures gathered like black-winged angels over some dead or dying thing. The radio signal was patchier than a moth-eaten quilt. As I strained to catch the notes of Telemon's Behold the Lamb of God, the sacred music was invaded by snippets of a sermon, the preacher's voice as static and tinny as if he were broadcasting from space. Before I could change the dial, the message reached me as clearly as a pillar of divine fire. When you get to heaven, you're going to have a new body. A week after Easter, I sat alone in a church parking lot, staring into the sun. That isn't to say I was the only one there. A crowd of eclipse gazers sat around me, camped out with telescopes and protective glasses. We'd been cautioned not to look directly at the awe of nature we were about to witness. Such a miracle hadn't been seen in 7 years. A friend of mine had gone to Ohio to see totality, but I hadn't embarked on such a pilgrimage. The forecast estimated 85% coverage, and 85% of a miracle was enough for me. I wasn't expecting to be moved, but when someone shouted, "First contact," and we gazed up at the sliver of black carving into the brilliant orange, it pulled the air from my lungs. I looked away gasping, my eyes aching even through the protective glasses, even from just a second of looking. The clouds rolled in to humble us, and that might have been the end of it. But as we began to despair, to content ourselves with 1% of a miracle, the clouds parted, and there it was, the waning crescent of sun, the winking eye of the divine. I'm going to read one last piece for you. This is the end of the essay. A New Life. In 2024, Easter was celebrated on March 31st, along with Transgender Day of Visibility. The holiest Christian celebration of life hasn't coincided with the recognized celebration of trans lives since 2013. This alignment won't happen again for over half a century. It didn't take a genius or psychic to predict conservative hand-wringing, but it still surprised me. Do the people decrying the overlap know that Easter's date is determined based on astronomical arithmetic? That it occurs on the first Sunday following the full moon on or after the vernal equinox, making this alignment almost as rare as an eclipse? Even a lapsed Christian like me remember that Easter is, above all, a celebration of rebirth, redemption. Many of my friends have experienced these same joys as a result of growing into their authentic selves. Feel how I've changed, they've said. And like Thomas touching the mark of the nails and spear, I felt Adam's apples, breasts coming to fruit. I've listened as they shed old names like vestments of the tomb, watched as they rise into radiant lives. As natural as a field of wildflowers, as the call of a bird breaking the winter sky, as the ephemeral awe of an eclipse, impermanent vessels as we are, what loving deity would deprive us of this joy of evolving? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liam. This joy of evolving. How beautiful. Thank you so much. Next, We have Maria Mortensen Davis, whose poem Living Water we have reprinted from the journal Iriantum. Maria, do you know what the name of the journal means?
Yes. So my spiritual home, the spiritual home of my upbringing, is Mormonism, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the word Iriantum is from the Book of Mormon. It is just a word that is used only once, very briefly, by one of the figures in the Book of Mormon to refer to the ocean, and it meant to them many waters. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. I'm so delighted and honored to be here among so many incredibly talented folks. My poem, Living Water, I want to make listeners aware that it contains an image of sexual violence. It's very brief, but take care of yourself as needed. Living Water. When the contractions begin in earnest, Mary is finally able to cry the tears that have not come for 10 long moons, but have instead accumulated against some hidden blockage, swelling her belly beneath her wool dress. When the Roman soldier held her down behind the market stall, pinned her twisting arms beneath her bunched up shift, and grunted into her like a stud ram, she did not cry. Not that evening, listening to her own small voice tell her mother why she was late. Not later in the mikveh, watching the man's filth float from her and hang in the water. Not the first time she vomited up her mother's good brown bread, or when the moon waxed large and she did not bleed. Not even on the path to see the midwife for a solution, at the sudden rustling of white wings and intimations, when she decided not to set down this ugliness, but to carry it, and then finding that Joseph knew and would carry it with her, but here in this hay spotted with goat dung, while Joseph, bless him, brushes the flies from her eyes, while the auntie he has found in this strange city reminds her to keep her voice deep and her throat open, helpless tears. It is too much. It is too heavy. It is out of the same private place the ugliness began that she sobs and screams the black head of God into the world, crowned with vernix and the circle of her own skin, and wringing out of her his first and her favorite miracle, living water that pours not only from her womb, but from her eyes, for here is the ugliness she has carried for so long, and it is soft and small and beautiful. And later, when he makes the water into wine, it is for her. And no one but they two understand that it is not the first time he has taken something common, brackish, fetid, still, and made it breathing and brilliant, a cup that can be drunk without fear.
Thank you. You have another poem to read, Maria?
I do. I have another poem that I will read tonight. This poem contains some. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this. I have no content warning for this poem. A New Creature is what it's called. I have been thinking about the tenderness of scavengers, about the vulture's flat, gentle feet, how the frozen body of the finch in my window well was gone by morning, spared a crude garbage bag shroud by the righteousness of some animal that will not hunt a living being even to eat. My own death was slower. I did not hit a window, but succumbed to a creeping leprosy of spirit that gradually rendered me numb and still, bloodless, quiet. Lord, if you'd only been here. None of my usual cures seem to work. Do Gog's feathers also end at the neck? Can his bowels, acidic with mercy, neutralize the bacteria of decay, bring him entrails, tendons, a broken heart? He will not consume a beating one. I don't know where he sleeps or nests, only that when hope lies bloated and stinking on the highway, I find him circling just outside the edges of my vision. When I spiral down into death, he follows. I once believed I consumed Christ's body each week, but now as I take the bread and water, I see I had inverted the ancient miracle, for here is Christ on wide black wings, bending to kiss the carcass of my faith and coming away with flesh in his mouth. My sparrows fall not wasted, only changed into life abundant, abundant. Thank you.
Maria, those are both so beautiful.
Thank you.
Next, I'm pleased to introduce Amy Fleury, who won our Best Spiritual Literature Award for Poetry. Her poem, Holy the Hospital, was selected by Sarah Ghazal Ali, and I'm pleased to welcome Amy.
Thank you so much, Luke, and I want to thank also Sarah for selecting my poem to be included in this anthology that I've long admired, and I'm so grateful to Luke for editing such a meaningful and inclusive collection of literary work every year. So, Holy the Hospital. Holy the automatic door that admits the injured and sick, enveloping those who have come to help or heal. Holy the helipad and ambulance bay, all the ways to get in. Holy the lobby with its many burdened chairs and the information desk fanned in brochures and maps of color-coded corridors in English and Espanol. Holy the open atrium, its grove of potted plants and sun-dazzled mobile to lift all eyes in hope. Holy the placid fountain and the piano and its bench, and holy also the coffee stand, cups stacked as chalices, ready to be blessed and carried into the day, into the elevator, where the hierarchy of buttons light the way to beloveds in the wards and rooms above. Holy the stairwells and ramps and walkways and halls where flocks of white coats gust importantly. Holy the unit reception desks where sit the givers of visitor stickers and the takers of temperatures, and holy the hand washing stations that anoint all hands with 20 seconds of hot water and antibacterial soap in the whirring payout of paper towels. Along the aisles of an open ward, bed spaces iterate the mantra of monitor, IV pole, mechanical bed. Carts trundle bedpans and trays freighted with pill cups, puddings, and plastic mugs with bendy straws. Wheelchairs and gurneys maze their way through it all. From the high windows of private rooms, a view to the goings and comings of tiny figures below, the weather, and the hospital signage in a splash of marigolds. In the semi-private rooms, a curtain scrape divides the fluorescent light, but multiplies the sounds of shoe scuffs and med pump beeps. Holy the reverse isolation room, its dutiful ventilation system, a lung to cleanse the air, its shield against all vectors. Holy the infusion center, the east-facing recliners, each station attended by its radiant chemical lamp. The maw of the MRI machine swallows a host of hungers and is itself a vessel of the holy, as is the X-ray, as is this ultrasound, their vision of the interior. Sacred is the system of pneumatic tubes that conducts vials and swabs to the lab, where a centrifuge reads numbers spun from blood, the same system which carries boluses, tablets, and drips from pharmacy to floor. From the steam trays and coolers of the cavernous kitchen emerges a procession of Jell-O cubes and saltless broths. Through the hipped open door of the OR, every surface sanitized and sanctified. Surgical lights glint off instruments resting next to the table. Holy the waiting room, a place to pace and rest and fret with muted TV and outdated magazines until the telephone's summons to post-op consultation cubicle. Holy the chambers of intensive care, telemetry's scrolled text, the tabernacle of the crash cart, the unit's divine interventions. Holy is labor and delivery, the portal to the corporeal world, in the nursery, which is its vestibule. Bless each bassinet ready to receive, diapers piled fresh as loaves. Praise all nurses' stations, as they are especially holy, and preserve the haven of the break room, its tables laden with oily pizza boxes and boiled over birthday cakes. Blessed is the sanctum of the restroom. Its stalls provide privacy to cry, but the mirrors be damned. Holy the cafeteria with its array of cellophaned sandwiches prepared with nutritious whole grain bread, its variety of condiments and ambiguous gravies, its Melmac plates, trays ready to be slid along a rail, cylinders of spoons. The vending machine shrine hums and beckons at all hours. Holy the gift shop, brimful of plush bunnies, packets of mints and ibuprofen, get well cards and Mylar balloons. And holy the blood bank, the milk bank, the ATM. Even the office of the cashier is holy, its intricate spreadsheets and exponential sums accepting every offering. Behold the solace of the chapel, its humble altar and a kneeler placed before tiered votives lit with an electric click. In the corner stands the tree of hope, each branch hung with string-fastened petitions. Gracias por todo. Heal our daughter. Comfort the family of dad's donor. Help us, please. Hush and hallowed is the morgue, its sepulchral drawers, antiseptic incensing the air. In the infinite spiral of the parking garage, conveyances await the ones who hurt, those who mend and attend, those who will return. Silence. Holy is the silence that holds every prayer.
Wow, such a powerful poem. Thank you so much, Amy. Next, we have Christine Hale, whose essay, Inside, Outside, In Between, we have reprinted from Southern Humanities Review. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to be here with these wonderful writers, and grateful to you, Luke, for the inclusion of the essay in this anthology, and grateful to the editors of the Southern Humanities Review. I write lyric essays in segmented form, and this one, which was written in grief for my late husband, I was trying to capture in it something about experiencing continuity through discontinuity, which I think is one way that I understand mourning at this point. The essay is formed from 3 columns of text, one left justified, that's inside, one right justified, outside, and one centered, the in-between part. Inside is my worried ruminations and unanswerable questions. Outside contains answers posed by others, poets, scholars, philosophers, and in between are dreams. So I'm going to read from the last pages of the essay with a brief pause between the segments. For weeks, I keep tripping across some version of Rilke's words on partners as guardians of one another's solitudes. Quote, once the realization is accepted that even between the closest human beings, infinite distances continue, a wonderful living side by side can grow if they succeed in loving the distance between them, which makes it possible for each to see the other whole against the sky. Late in October, the high desert of southwest New Mexico, terrain I've seen just once before and in the company of the beloved, the moment our divided paths at last converged, a weekend in the wilderness before the long drive back east to begin, in the 6th decade of our lives, our marriage. Hiking in the strong light that enveloped him and his writing for 30 years, I feel peace and release, empty and aching, but suffused somehow with him. That night, he turns up in a dream. I watch him dance, alone but for my eyes. He is graceful, lithe, far younger than at his death, perhaps at the age we met, his early 40s. He smiles to himself, his gaze downturned and inward, grooving on what he hears and feels. He doesn't acknowledge my looking, but I know he knows I'm there. I feel it, lovely, clear as day, his connection to me and his happiness inside it. I am its witness. Waking, writing down the dream, I see I've been granted a vision of his separate integrity, who he was, not who I wanted or believed or needed him to be. In our life together and all over again in death, he's shown me his essence. Rangifahia, New Zealand, on the porch of a ramshackle 100-year-old farmhouse, an Airbnb in the foothills of mountains where tomorrow I'll go horseback trekking. I've come around the globe to visit my daughter and her family, but this is my side trip into solitude. Deep winter at home, late summer here. Utter stillness except for bee buzz, bird twitter, and occasional bleats from sheep somewhere out of sight. Dusk, half moon hung in the east. As minutes pass, pink washes and streaks through the blue, paling the moon. In nearly 3 weeks in this country, I have learned that I could live here. Will I? No answer to that. Live that question. Pink shifts to rose. Such a long time since I've had the inner calm to sit with the sunset beginning to end. I feel something dawning and the intellect works to word it. There is a life that I will live in which the beloved has no role but ballast. He is memory. He resides in me deep and always. My first morning back home, I have a long, vivid dream. I've gone outside impulsively, delightedly, to play in unexpected snow, then find myself scampering like a happy child through a terraced labyrinth of houses and shops and winding passageways, past people and animals, flowers and furnishings, through brilliant sunshine. The snow has melted, and I'm trying to find the right pathway home, where the beloved awaits me and will be angry at my thoughtlessness in leaving no note. I've been gone for hours or maybe days, but my phone is at home, so I can't text him to explain. The village I run through keeps expanding. I'm lost, and there are so many twists in the path, but I'm certain I'll recognize our street when I find it. And even though awareness of the beloved's disappointment in my behavior spurs me, I am not distressed. He'll be there when I get there, and we'll make up. When I wake up, I feel good all day, buoyed up. Inside the dream, I never reached home and never saw the beloved, but hurried toward him with confidence in his continuing presence. My anticipation of his growly, frowny irritation felt familiar, even comforting. He wasn't dead and we were us, and the abundant strength of our tie drew me home to him like one hand settling smoothly into the palm of another. Thank you. So you heard my cat chiming in too.
Such a beautiful elegy, Christine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, Joanne Hart will read from her story titled Ah, with an exclamation mark, which was originally published in The Dodge.
Dodge. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, everybody. The readings have been just incredible. The beautiful words. What a way to spend a winter evening. I'm going to read the first 4 pages of what's like a 12-page story. So the first third, this is one in a series of connected stories that I've been working on for a few years, and I'm still working on. And so I know these characters like really well. You are just getting this little glimpse of it, and that you should also know that it's set slightly in the future. I usually appear in climate anthologies. Look, here I am in a spiritual anthology, but there you go. Okay, so Ahimsa called for me to come down to the yard after I finished cleaning the incubators. I found her at the back gate with a gold-edged feather in her hand and Robin snug in a baby wrap slung over her shoulder. We wore sun hoods, but no oxypacks. Every day we bring Robin down to the yard to see the world at ground level and let our feet touch the earth. And when he learns to walk, he can explore the outdoors in this safe place. We live overhead in an arbor shelter and raise robins for the rewilded forest. Now we are raising Robin as well, a miracle born of perseverance and the gene-splitting genius of Telos, our global intelligence system. Ahimsa held the feather by its hollow shaft and twirled it. Robin reached out his plump hand, but I shook my head, and Ahimsa pulled the feather away. Who knew what microbes it carried in its barbs? We had enough to worry about. Hawk feather, Ahimsa said. Robin eater feather, I said. Don't be silly. She tucked the feather in a fold of her tunic. I'll genoscan it later. Talos could identify what hawk it was and from where. We know it was rewilded since there were no natural hawks outside of lockdown sanctuaries. The naturals don't have the genetic manipulation needed to survive in this degraded environment, like the rewilded hawks, like us. There's a robin-sized pile of feathers right there by the oak. Ahimsa's face went full lamentation on me, and I wished I hadn't told her. She's prone to despair, more so since her father died last year. It's hard to watch our birds, so lovingly raised to adulthood, perish from predators and other hazards. I know this is how the big wheel turns, but it makes our work feel futile. We turned to look at the robin remains and saw not feathers, but a human, as raw and naked as a hatchling, sitting at the base of the tree. Ahimsa clutched Robin to her body. Get the baby inside, I said. I'll talk to him. But she was already rushing to the ramp. I moved slowly and latched the gate behind me. Not afraid exactly, just cautious. Violent crime was rare, and this young man clearly had nowhere to hide a weapon. But still, it was a human and a male, not a good track record. We were a little isolated, as most rewilding centers were, except those that produced urban creatures. Rewilding rats seemed plain wrong to me, but the ethics board decreed they were part of the web, and we can't just help the species we find cute. We rise or fall together. I squatted a few feet away from the stranger. He did not look my way, but kept his attention on the sky. Life sparkled in his eyes. Where had he come from, and how had he breathed during his travels? There was no transport around, and he showed no signs of recent hypoxia in spite of not having a pack with him. He had sufficient air now because our trees had been modified to pump out more oxygen than wild trees, which had been through too much for too long to have more than a passing resemblance to tree. They produced so little oxygen that to go from one rewilded area to another without a pack meant to die in the barrens. Our life's work, humanity's work, along with Telos, was to shrink those areas. But for now, well, for now. Hi there, I said. He smelled of dry heat and alkaline dust. Are you okay? Are you lost? He didn't acknowledge me, so I felt free to stare. His eyes were green and had thin orange circles around the irises, which explained the sparkling. His dark skin had the green tint that Telos implemented early on to help protect us from radiation, which meant he was not born outside of the system. In the small number of cases where couples insisted on maintaining their DNA autonomy and didn't access Telos, the outcomes were disturbing and obvious. And yet, I understood wanting nature to take its course. We all wanted to get back to that. But in the meantime, our mutation load was such that Telos had to screen fertilized eggs before implantation, then add guardrails. Our precious robin came into being this way. We used my bone marrow cells and Ahimsa's eggs, but we wouldn't have done that even if we weren't both cis females, sperm being particularly vulnerable to environmental hazards. It was a tough decision bringing a child into a damaged world, but in the end we decided that it fell on us to make sure there were future generations to continue the work, to fix what humanity had destroyed. It was a lot to put on a baby. My point being, this young man seemed to have been born with all the protections Telos could provide, and yet something was off. He was nonverbal and used no paralinguistic signals. Was it a mental health crisis, an organic brain injury, or was he just being a sullen teenager? Whatever it was, I was not getting anywhere with words, so I climbed back up to the house. Food and water might open him up. The health team is on its way, said Ahimsa, holding Robin in her arms and staring out the window. I assembled a plate of grains and greens from the grow station, then filled a ceramic water bottle. Maybe they can get him to talk, I said. He just gazes at the sky with those starry eyes of his. Starry eyes, she mused. Let's call him Astrolab. Don't name him, I said. Maybe he was brought here by some rogue migration outfit, she said, and abandoned in the barrens to die. If he has a home, we'll help him find it, I said. If he doesn't, the collaborative will find one for him. I'm going to throw a tunic and turban on him, Ahimsa said. Even here, he'll burn. We're not keeping him, I said. Says the one who's making him lunch, she said, and handed me our baby. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. I love this story, and I hope folks will get the anthology and read the rest of it. Next, we have Sadia Khatri, who won our nonfiction award, and her essay, The Width of the Neck, was selected by Suzanne Paula Antonetta, who is here in the video session with us. Sadia.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
I can
So
hear you. Mhm.
my essay is about, it's about a shrine in South Asia that I am a devotee of. And so the essay is about this place where people have been going for 300 years. There is a daily devotional music that is sung there by practitioners of what is called the Rag. So you will hear me refer to the Rag a bunch of times. And it's a fragmented essay, and what I'm describing in it is being at that shrine, sitting there, listening to the music, watching the other devotees, just to play some context. And I'm going to read from different bits in it. Okay. I close my eyes a lot. The rag does that. First, my fingers close, then my palm, then the light over my skin. I picture the fakirs, the sharp glide of their arms, plucking the strings like they are weaving, pulling needles through stubborn fabric. In the darkness, I see the threads of my heart, sticky and black. I stare at the ground a lot, at the gathering residue of the shrine, drops of chai, pools of red petals, crumbs of sweetmeats and mithai. Every half hour, a man comes along to sweep it all away from the floor. The flies become dispossessed momentarily with the crumbs gone, and then they return, wings shimmering, to rummage in the dust. Bitai, the poet, says, "What you find in the dust, you will not find in anything else." On my wrist, I hang rose garlands. In the morning, the flower seller hands them over wordlessly. Over the day, I watch the petals wither, fall, die. By night, they will become small and shriveled. When clumps of them are swept away before they blacken, I am relieved. If I were patient, I would wait for death, but I am not patient. I lack courage. I cheat. I shake my wrist quietly so that more of the petals fall. The fakirs of Bitsha wail beside the graveyard. For 270 years, the dead have been listening to this rag more than any living. The rag has seeped into their bones more than it has seeped into any living creatures. Sitting there, the rag seeps into the parts of me that have died. For a long time, they have not been touched either. Without the fakirs of Bitsha, I am miserable. Without their rag, I am lost. I wander restless for a sight of their black clothes. I tie threads around the branches of old trees, wind or person. Whoever touches these threads touches the hungriest parts of me. Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead. The rag is a river that drips through my hands, that my hands cannot hold on to. I am not used to receiving in this way, to being wanted this way. I rustle, I drop the veil, I am flooded. I feel how a petal in bloom must feel, widening its red just to hold a little bit more of the world. Why I keep returning to this 270-year-old shrine to listen to the rag is a longer story, but always it must end like this. My neck bent at the shrine, tied to the rag. Allah says, every man's fate we have fastened to his neck. Wakul insan azmunnahu tahira fi unikihi. Unuk means neck. I have been reading the Quran in Arabic because I figured that maybe God's chosen language too holds things I can receive that I do not yet have the imagination to desire. Yesterday, one of the fakirs explained a couplet. It's about Hazrat Ali, he said. The story goes, everyone was waiting for Hazrat Ali to arrive. Hazrat Ali is a divine figure in Islamic history. So the story goes, everyone was waiting for Hazrat Ali to arrive. They were looking at the horizon, thinking Ali would appear soon. Only one man, Suleiman, had his eyes not to the ground, but to the sky. Why are you staring at the sky? The others asked. Don't you know? Asked Suleiman, raising his neck. That is where my Lord will come from. Unuk means neck, and I lift mine to see what it is fastened to. Again and again, the blue of the shrine flies in and remembers me. Thank you.
So beautiful. I love this essay in fragments. Thank you so much, Sadia. Next is Daniel Kraft, whose poem Book of Revelations originally appeared in Psaltery and Lyre. Daniel.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Luke, for putting this together. I'm so grateful. Really honored to be here with all of you. This has been such an amazing reading so far. So thanks everybody who's made this possible. So yeah, I won't give too much context about this poem. I'll just say that it takes place in Krakow in Poland. Along the river Wisła, underneath the castle, I would ride my heavy bike and try to let the nothing in my heart speak with the nothings that are God and Kazimierz. Three nothings joined together on the riverside, and in their joinings each grew to be less than it had been alone. Something broke apart. I thought it was the sky until I found it in me, and I fell into visions of God like someone stumbling from a cliff and never striking earth. The word of the Lord came down like a plague of moths, so many moths I could see nothing else, glowing as if their wings burned. I saw dead children dead and killed, including some among the murdered children, whose reincarnations I've come to know I am. I saw and was given to know so many things which I can't find a single way to say. One of the girls is 4 years old and overwhelmed with terror. Her spirit looks like a potato, wet, rotting a little with its skin peeled off. Forgive the flippancy of the image. I have no words for this. She is sad and angry, far beyond her skill with speech. In 1939, she had a vision of her murder and knelt beside her parents as they tried and failed to comfort her. She saw their murders too, and I have seen her seeing this. I see her sometimes still. Since 1941, she's not been touched. She cannot be made whole. Sometimes I think I might, the next time she appears, invite her into my body, but I am too afraid. Maybe to her, I am the spirit and she wonders what I need. I was not told to eat a scroll. I saw the children, some of whom I am. The word became 1,000 eyes on fire, and I threw myself onto the ground because the eyes became a river flowing towards me. How they whirled and quivered like a school of fish. But a voice said, "Mortal, stand, and I will speak to you." I stood. The voice said, "Mortal, let your mouth open and eat what I am giving you." My jaw unhinged. I heard it crack and open more. I saw a great hand, wider than the river Wisła, and it held my great-grandmother's naked corpse, my great-grandmother whom I never met in life. Her body was tattooed entirely with Hebrew dirges, gorgeous grief-struck poetry, none of which I recall. Hebrew letters were tattooed over each millimeter of her skin, so densely that they overlapped into chaotic traceries. She was and was not legible to me. The hand delivered her into my mouth. I tasted her dry skin like leather, dirt, formaldehyde, and meat, and woke with strangers crouched above me on that Riverwalk's pavement, murmuring, one talking on a phone, beneath the shadow of the castle. A kind nun held my clammy hand. The word was gone. I don't know if I ate that body, as the voice told me to do, or did I only taste her and return here to wherever this is that we are. Thank Thank you.
Wherever this is that we are, thank you so much, Danny. Very profound and thought-provoking experience and poem recording it. We have two more readers tonight. Next is Shati Mukherjee, whose poem Inversions, Doha, Sorta appeared in the Inflectionist Review.
Hi, everybody. Is my volume okay, Luke? Great, wonderful. Thank you very much, Luke, and thank you to the Orison Project and press and everything that you stand for and raise up. We're also grateful to you for the beautiful books that you put forward. I'm honored to be with you, my fellow writers, and I cannot wait to hold the book in my hand and see your words on the page. So thank you. It's so lovely to be here. The poem is called Inversions, Doha and Sorta. The Doha is a Hindustani form that dates from the 6th century. It's kind of an interesting form, and I won't say much about it because you certainly won't hear it in the reading, but they're independent rhyming couplets that are in these very particular syllabic assemblages. And they're divided into 13 and 11 syllable assemblages. A sortha is an inverted doha, so that's 11 and 13 instead of 13 and 11. The poem is from a book that's called Desh, that's forthcoming from Tupelo Press. And I wrote the poems of that collection based on interviews with members of the Deshi diaspora in the Pacific Northwest where I live. So my Bangladeshi, Pakistani, and Indian immigrant family and friends who were Sikh, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, agnostic, and the poems arose out of our conversations. Desh, the word Desh itself means country or homeland, and you'll hear it in the poem. So for this particular poem, some of the poems are more narrative, but this particular poem is almost like a collage where I pulled a lot of answers that I got to the following questions. What is your immigration story? What do you remember playing as a child? What do you believe? And how does your religion shape your life? Where are you from? And where is home? So this is Inversions, Doha and Sorta. 1. For so many years I looked to the west, but now I look east and south. Too much noise here, all's too bright. You cannot hear yourself. In the village, there's a flow in things, but you have to know how to catch it right. If you can't see what's here, zoom out or go up to the moon and look down. Look at the way rivers start, streams marry, braid to sea, in inverse of trees. Our seeds dropped root and our branches grew so far apart. 2. As a girl, I was like a mountain goat, climbing treble-trunked trees, leapfrogging stream, scree, and landfall. Mothered there, named mother here, which only goes to say, I have 2 Desh, or I have none at all. I've heard it said that the immigrant has 2 souls. I walk the lake nights, far too cold for rain. Frozen ground, suddenly glittering there. Karachi from the oval window of the lifting plane. 3. Poets once, we tilled a rivered universe. Why should I believe in something I don't remember, they ask, and you turn the question inside out. Do you recall the life you lived inside your mother? To look and to see are separate things. Signs on the horizon drift by, red, unread. I'm coding new lines. Our usual calendars can't hold dependencies, can't hold everything real that's floating. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What beautiful work. So happy to have the poem in the anthology, and congratulations on your new collection coming out with Tupelo soon. That's very exciting. Our final reader tonight is Stanley Stalker, whose story, The Hunt, originally appeared in African American Review. Stanley.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you, everyone. And just as an audience member, I've just thoroughly enjoyed this tonight, so thank you to all the readers. And thank you to Eileen Keenan, who originally selected this piece for African American Review. I'll be reading an excerpt from my novel, which is set in the early 19th century, Mississippi. The novel is a retelling of the father quest of antiquity, The Hunt. A figure approached from the east. He was tall and lean and moved across the fields with a gait that was solemn and spare. Dressed in a dark suit, he stopped just short of the group where the governor, the prison superintendent, and the sergeant stood. His feet were bare, and his hands folded around a dark book. He seemed aged, if age should come on but leave and even increase the power of a man. "Mr. Prophet, would you please say a few words?" Mrs. Barksdale, the superintendent, said, rising to greet him. Prophet shook her hand and greeted the Governor O'Connor and the others gathered at the state's last working prison farm. With the sound of the cicadas filling the air, Prophet nodded and mounted the platform. The sun, a pink line across the horizon just a while earlier, now threw its light like a fully opened eye across the fields. "Sergeant Daly," Prophet called out, "what do you call a man who tries to escape this parchment farm?" Daly stood erect, looking around at the gathered group. "We call him Rabbit, Mr. Prophet." Although Prophet addressed the sergeant, he spoke, it seemed, not to any particular person, but to the piercing eye of the sun. To his wizened perception, when he turned his head to the east, the eye of the sun turned with him. And when he turned to the west, as if to test the accuracy of his perceptions, the eye turned to follow him. Thus confirmed in his fearful trial, Prophet paused, trembling, not daring to speak, as he stood pierced by the eye of God. "Yes, the man who tries to outrun parchment dogs you call a rabbit," said Prophet, "because he runs and hides wherever he can, in the fields or in the barns or near the bayous. If he makes it beyond parchment, then he hides in the hamlets or in the cities in hopes that he won't be found. And we follow his journey when it's taken up by the papers, don't we? We read of the dog boys on the hunt who keep on despite their exhaustion. We read about it as if it has nothing to do with us, as if it does not concern us." Prophet surveyed the faces in the crowd. "But I tell you, every one of you is that man. And this whole wide world is a parchment farm, and it is the hound of heaven that pursues us. It is the grace of God that pursues us. We are each that fleeing soul, that fugitive from his God, the outlaw who runs for fear that to have God is to forsake all else, that to love God with all his heart and all his mind, and to love his neighbor as himself is more than he can do. So he runs, thinking that if he cannot love God well, he will not love him at all. Prophet raised his fist to his chest and shook them. How, God, am I to love you when I must feed and clothe myself and take up the burdens of the day? when I must grab and grasp, as if driven by some invisible spirit. Better not to carry God at all than to carry him piecemeal into the corners of the day, tucked into the fretting hours. So we fly, we flee, the thickets tearing at our faces, and always behind us is the sound of the lover pursuing the beloved. All things betray you that betray me. The soul hides beneath the blanket of the stars and piles high the hours to sink beneath their weight, tucking himself among the shadows of the night. And still the voice echoes in our ears, nothing can shelter you that will not shelter me. Prophet fell silent. He had been invited to help persuade the governor to allow more men and women to petition for parole. But when he looked into the faces of the crowd, at the dog boys and the dignitaries, the sergeants and the drivers, he saw not their faces, but the shimmering mask of death. Death by blindness to the wonders of the world, and the wonders of one another, and the wonders of God. A sharp pang struck his breast as if his heart had been pierced. He had been invited to address the gathered guests as if to a feast. And where he had intended a celebration, instead the guests seemed to have become the feast. Once again, Prophet looked up into the pitiless eye of the sun. After several moments, as if heeding a silent call, he nodded humbly and began anew. Wanderers, he said, have you studied the catechism of water, watched it seek its source among the congregation of stones? Have you sat at the foot of the oak? Have you called a congress of your senses, studied silence, sat in its courtyard, in its rooms furnished not with absence, but with plenty, with the beginning of all things? Have you climbed down into the well of night, read the runes of leaves, felt the slender body of the river? If not, then in the end, you will call to the earth and it will say, depart from me, I do not know you, for you did not know me. Prophet's voice cracked as he spoke, as if he feared that everything depended on being understood. Children, my children, how long will you wander like strangers on the earth when the river of God is so full of water? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stanley. The Catechisms of Water. Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. I really hope that your novel makes its way into the world soon. I look forward to reading the whole thing. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful readers tonight, our contributors to Best Spiritual Literature. Thank you so much to all the folks who joined to witness these astonishing words. I am going to pop the links that I put in the chat at the beginning of the session back in the chat one more time in case anyone missed those and wants to order a copy of the anthology or subscribe or look at the Orison prizes or support the work of Orison Books. Thank you all so much. What a wonderful evening. Take these beautiful words and these beautiful voices with you. And I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.